Hey folks, today we're going to talk about whether kids are addicted to technology. And of course you're saying, of course they are, they're on their devices all the time, although of course we are all as well. I want to push back a bit at the use of the term addicted. Addiction is serious. Addiction is tied to medical problems. It's a psychological diagnosis, and we know it's always bad and it needs to be managed and controlled. We probably should use a much more careful term when we talk about the fact that we, adults and kids, are spending lots of time that may not be productive doing things that we think maybe are harmful, maybe are a waste of time, maybe are involved with bullying, maybe we're looking at content, maybe we're just doing too much work. These are all issues that we obviously need to deal with. We need to control, make sure we spend our time in productive ways, have good lives. But we're not necessarily addicted to technology. When I watch a whole range of Netflix shows one after another, because I'm going to binge, am I addicted? I'm spending more time consuming media in a different way. Frankly, instead of watching a show every night, which I did when I was young, I'm busy during the week, and I may binge and have a different experience and consume it in a different way, right? I'm not addicted. Let's think about it. If my kids were, or your kids were addicted to Duolingo, the app that some kids are really hooked on, it helps them learn a language and it gives you all sorts of incentives. And if you really want to learn a language, it's awesome that you are addicted to learning, to coming back, to consuming that content. We all have kids who had to read every Harry Potter book. Parents had to go line up at the stores in the middle of the night to be the first online and to read each book. I remember kids staying up to all hours. Were they addicted? I was addicted to reading as a kid. I would stay up all night on weekends, sometimes even during the week, and I had to get through the book, and I'd read everything from junk to anything I could find in the house, to my mom's Harlequin romances, to history, to fiction. It served me well. It really made me very literate. It gave me great reading and writing skills. And when I see kids, teens, being addicted to learning, it's really not the term we use, right? That's passion, that's interest. What we seem to be concerned about, and this is where I think we shouldn't be talking about, oh, they're addicted to technology. We could kick you off your phone and you could watch too much TV or too much video gaming or all the other bad habits that we have that are enjoyable, that give us some reward. The real question is, am I spending my time well? And if the devices are what I use to spend my time, right? I used to work, it was meetings. Now we're dealing with email. Am I engaging in a way that is contributing, learning, being useful? I started a online Stanford machine learning course at Coursera, and the instructor is brilliant. Andrew Ng, one of the founders, really early thinkers in AI, and yet he's a real clear presenter, and I'm really interested in the issue. I can't get enough of it. Am I addicted to this class? If our kids were hooked on consuming Khan Academy videos, so we ought to move away from talking about being addicted and to looking at what our youth are doing online, and how do we make sure that if they're wasting time online or wasting time on TV or wasting time, in other unproductive ways, we give them the tools as parents to help better shape what they do. Now, look, let's not let companies or developers, whoever they are, off the hook. Many of the defaults are designed to encourage us to check each message. It buzzes, it blinks. Does every app I have need to be buzzing and blinking to get my attention? Maybe I should be asked to decide. Different devices have different rules for whether they put everything default on, and you really got to go and take a lot of time and energy to not get interrupted. We certainly can have more humane design, as some of the advocates are calling for. But I think we need a shift from the notion that we are hooked and it is something to do with the fact that it is a screen, as opposed to there is a wide swath of information out there today, and we need to learn how to make sure we spend our time in useful ways. And obviously we want parental controls so that parents can do a better job. An interesting study that Common Sense Media did, although the headline seemed to be all about addiction, when you looked at, and I'm going to read the study here and we'll post a link to it, when you looked at what parents want, parents said it is our responsibility to control their device usage. Companies would be wise to help them. The question was, who is primarily responsible for limiting children's advertising time spent on mobile devices? Now, listen to this. 2% said it was Apple and Android. 2% said other. 1% said it's the companies that make the apps, Facebook and YouTube. 98% said that it's parents or caregivers, and 5% said it's children themselves. And this was a study by Common Sense Media focusing on the great concern of people being addicted to devices. So this was not a industry study looking to get the companies off the hook. Look, we don't model great behavior very often. Are you addicted to your device? We all know we ought to be spending more time engaging and not being distracted by other items. We've got the tools to do so. It would behoove companies to think carefully about design so that we can take responsibility. There are times when I do want to be alerted, right? There really are times when it's great that I can be on travel and I can be away from the office and I can be with my family. And if it's really important, they will reach me, right? But it's my responsibility, instead of having that be the norm, so that the trivial message, the inter-office memo that used to sit in your box until you came back, that today is the reply all that somehow grabs your attention. I want the controls to decide that I do want to be super connected and urgent because I'm really on now, I'm working from home, I'm working remote, I want to be engaged, or no, I only want to be a little bit aware, or I want to be contacted really only if it's an emergency, right? Those are decisions I want to make. Don't default them on and encourage me to live in a state of constant crisis. But it's not a matter of me being addicted. It's in my control. I shouldn't blame it, and I shouldn't have my kids blame it. I can't help it. It's the device that's addicted me, right? We need to, in this time of busy news and digital world, to develop those skills, because frankly, if I'm hooked, whether it gives me a notification or not, my time won't be well spent. Anyway, just a couple of quick thoughts. So perhaps we can move a little bit from this notion of it's addiction, and if only we pushed and designed, it would all make a difference. The reality is we need to make sure that in a world where we are going to be spending time on screens, right? We get our content in easy, accessible, often free ways. That's not going to change. The question is, are we spending a significant part of our day doing useful things, work in a productive manner, engaging usefully, and encouraging our kids and teens to connect in safe and reliable ways? Just a thought. Thanks for being with us today.